Hey, hello. Well, joining me today is the amazing Ujunwa Cynthia Okafor, otherwise known as Cynthia, who I've asked to join me to talk about mainly about imposter syndrome. And she has written a most beautiful article, which I'll put the link to down on here, about how she faced down imposter syndrome in her role in life and in her work. And I'm actually going to hand over to her to let her talk about her work because it's kind of amazing the work she's done. So,
Hi, thanks for having me this morning. You can call me Cynthia. I am a research scientist with a PhD in cell biology. I have been training now for the past 3 years almost. So what I do focuses on the study of the effects of therapies on leukemia, and basically trying to understand the impact on the healthy cells, the impact of the drugs on the healthy cell biology. So basically right now I'm working on a specific drug with a pharmaceutical kind of collaboration. And we wanted to understand the side effects of this drug on normal hematopoietic cells. So that means blood cells, right? Trying to understand how that drug is impacting or changing the biology of the cells in patients. And what I do mostly use is human samples, and sometimes we work with mouse models as well. And we're looking to see if we can make the use of this drug better over the lifespan of people. And that's my passion, is to basically figure out a way to improve care for patients, help people, and make life better overall for everyone as much as we can, right? Yeah.
oh, well, what really struck me when I was reading your article was, I mean, obviously, I think for a lot of people, you probably just heard that and thought, wow, she's so smart. Like, and I think the thing is, because you do what you do,
Yeah.
I think very often we start going down the path and, uh, a lot of it is very natural. Obviously, you're so skilled and and you're such a great scientist, but at the same time, it's like it's so natural to you.
Mm.
But then in your article, you were saying so much of the time you were actually having a lot of negative thoughts and a lot of challenges in terms
Right.
of whether people would accept you
Right.
as a scientist, as a researcher, um, and in that kind of world.
Yeah, it is funny to step out of yourself, like to see yourself from the outside perspective, but it's not so easy to do, especially in the setting that we're working in. I'm grateful I've had great mentors, and I mentioned it in the article. Really, honestly, I think without them, I probably wouldn't have. I know I work hard, and I know that's something that has been built into me from my parents, from moving to the U.S. and just being taught to focus, work hard, because there's biases out there, there's racism, and you want to stand out, basically push beyond whatever limitations may come in front of you, work harder, work smart, focus, keep your eyes on the prize always, no matter what's happening around you. But still, it's kind of the fact that you look at yourself and you're not still, you feel like it's not enough. Like you're like, oh, I've done all this, but it's not enough. I haven't done quite enough. And just that constant worry that you've not met that goal that will make everyone finally think, oh, you've made it, and you're equipped to handle this, whatever job is put in front of you. And so it's not necessarily a thing of me not being able to do it, because for me, it's almost like I can work hard, I can focus, I can break whatever obstacles are in front of me, but then I step away and I'm like, oh, but, when I go out, do people see me and feel, okay, this person is equipped to do this? Do they really feel confident in me? And when you have subtle microaggressions or subtle things that do happen, that remind you that some people don't expect you to do well, some people don't anticipate that you're equipped to do this, or being ignored, or overlooked, or spoken over, especially when you're with someone else. Because I have mixed friends or colleagues, and It's my group is very diverse, and also on top of that, I'm like one of a few Black women in my field. So those encounters, I would say, make it hard to kind of makes it hard to kind of feel certain in your heart that, oh, you know, they see me and they know that I can do this. But again, it still comes down to having the right environment. So that's why I keep saying I'm very grateful for the environment I've been in, because it really helped me. I've been kind of sheltered in some ways. I do have to step out and go to conferences and meetings and all of that. And in certain environments, I'm challenged differently, right? But where I've been for the last 10 years almost, it's been very safe. There's a lot of collegiality, there's a lot of support for Black people and minorities, right? Minority groups. So it really does make it easier in many ways to overlook the things that make it hard to see yourself as equipped. But again, it comes back down to, how do you see yourself? Who are you to you, right? And not, that's why, you know, I wrote about overcoming it, because it took me some time to accept that, okay, I can't control and change how others see me, right? But I can be certain about how I see myself, right? I need to be certain about that. If I'm certain about that, then it doesn't matter what happens when I go out there. I know who I am, right? And I don't then have to deal with this insecurity or this constant fear and doubt that would formerly plague my thoughts and make life quite sometimes anxious.
Yeah, I find it's so fascinating, because I write about imposter syndrome in relation to fear of success, and I write about it in 3 ways. So it's as a problem, as a solution, and as an origin. And what I found really interesting, I think the thing is, it's when we talk about imposter syndrome, there is a lot of overlap. And what I loved was when you were talking about the article, and it's like you say, there's imposter syndrome in terms of how we sometimes feel that we're not what we say we are.
Right.
But there's also another element, which I think we think of it as imposter syndrome, but it's not really, which is, as you as you were saying, it's kind of when you go into an environment where you are not listened to because you're a woman, because you're Black. And unfortunately, it seems to be kind of something that's really kind of heating up at the moment.
Right.
In conversations on LinkedIn and things like that, there's a real sense of having a conversation and people just kind of talking over the women in the thread.
Yeah.
And for me, that's like, when I see it written down, I'm like, whoa, this is. But that's not, in a sense, it's not imposter syndrome. It's discrimination and prejudice.
Right.
It's actually, like you were saying, you walk into a classroom or a lecture and you say something and then just get ignored.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it feeds into that imposter syndrome, really.
Right.
But it's, I think the thing is it's kind of breaking it down, isn't it? And trying to get it from the
Yeah. No, it is true, and especially now, it's really high. It's been amped up in our world, right? But I always say, I feel honestly that you can't fix anything until it's exposed, right? So I even feel when I wrote about like this whole experience and, you know, everything I kind of went through and how I broke out of it, it really was cathartic for me, because it helped me really kind of, oh, okay, it really is, it did, you know, it's how I felt about a lot of things. It's how I perceive things too. And I also kind of take accountability for how I've allowed it, you know, kind of influence my life in many ways, right? Both positively and negatively mostly, and being okay with that, right? We're not, I feel honestly this world, like, it might be a challenge that some people have to live with for the rest of their lives, right? But it's something that you have to constantly remind yourself. Everything you've done up until now, you did it on with your abilities and with support. And so it's okay if you sometimes question whether or not you're quite able to, or you question whether or not people see you as fully equipped to handle the task, whatever it is. But you can't let it hold you back, regardless of whatever setting you're in. Just keep pushing forward and keep doing the best things that you know to do. I know I was also, when I was reading up about it myself, just to kind of get a better sense, because honestly, I didn't even realize what it was until I went to this conference, like I mentioned in the blog. It's like they talk about how some people are like perfectionists, and some people really just want to like do things on their own, and that's how they prove that they're able to, they're equipped and they're capable. And I always kind of felt like I've kind of been in between, just wanting to do everything perfectly, and just growing up and living a life where I did things on my own for so long. Like I'm the eldest child. I'm responsible for 3 other people. I lived with my own for years. And even in my marriage, I felt like I had to it took me a while to get comfortable with letting myself trust fully and let my husband take ownership of things, right? Because I'm just a soloist, almost like just going by myself and doing everything. But it also was a problem, because it's kind of like when you try to do everything on your own, that fear holds you back from seeking the guidance and the help you need many times, which was what happened to me at the end of my training. Is basically, I could have spoken to my mentors. I felt ashamed. I felt afraid to reach out, because I was concerned that it would show that I finally failed, right? Like I finally showed that I couldn't handle it, and I finally did fail in the end, right? So that just like held me back from reaching out, and I had support. I really did. So I could have, really spoken to them. I would have gotten a different like I would have had more clarity and guidance that would have helped me make better choices at that time. But basically, I stalled everything, and then I pulled out of the program just out of that fear, and how I was going to end up getting perceived, that I failed. And for years, I think I suffered with that, the repercussions of everything, for like almost 3 years, honestly, because I was really down on myself for a long time, and I wished I did things differently. But you live and you learn, and it's just part of life. You grow, you live and you learn. The mistakes we make don't define us. Failure doesn't define us. It's just an opportunity for us to continue to dig deeper and grow as people.
Definitely. I'd love to pick up on something that you just said there, which was I thought was beautiful. And I think this was related to some other things I was reading at the same time. I don't know if there were actually responses to your article. And it's what you said there about the imposter syndrome making it really difficult to reach out for help.
Right.
And some of the other posts that I have said about imposter syndrome, I think really to kind of position it, there have been stories about people who have actually committed suicide at colleges,
right,
because they felt help.
Yeah.
And I loved the way you described how you felt, because you can imagine so many people feeling like that they're at this point where if they reach out for help, they're failing.
Right. It's the word.
And they've got this whole baggage, this whole imposter syndrome thing of kind of like, everyone tells me I can't do it, and I have to prove it myself. And if I and you said it so beautifully, I'm not going to repeat that, but I think it's really important to realize that imposter syndrome is not just a kind of a buzzword, or it is a real thing, and it's great that so much research has been done into that.
Right.
I want to sort of touch on another thing that you said a lot, and I think you wrote this so beautifully in your article, and it's another area that people. One of the things that you talk about, and it's so beautiful, and I find this often, is I'm a scientist in the sense of being a mathematician, and also being very scientific in how I see the world. But I have a lot of faith and spiritual side of my life.
Right.
You write beautifully about the spiritual faith that you have. And what I love, and I'm going to let you explain it, when you talked about your turning point in facing down and fighting imposter syndrome and how you reached out for help.
Yeah. So yeah, I love meeting people who are also like spiritually inclined, because I honestly feel that as much as we are intelligent beings, there's so much more that we really don't understand, right? There's so much more that meets the eye, right, to this world. And I grew up in a Catholic home, so my family is Catholic. Actually, at some point in my life, I wanted to become like a reverend sister. I was that passionate about God. But, you know, life happens. We grow up. I moved to the US. I got focused in school. I was so, studious. I was focused, and then I had all these goals. But at some point, I got comfortable with just doing things on my own, kind of my own power, smart, intelligent, all that, feeling, empowered to do life. And I think that was kind of the point where I kind of may have lost my way in that sense. And the turning point came back when I went back to God in that way, right? I found Jesus, but I found understanding of the power of God for myself. It basically gave me this grounding and this peace that I never had before. And it's like God loves us all, and he desires all of us to live the best life that we could possibly live, whatever that translates for you, wherever you are in your world. It's not about the fancy cars or the nice houses. All those are great, right? But it's so much more than that. Just live in the fullness of your purpose in your heart. Live it out, impact the world and make changes in whatever circle you're in. And so when I realized, wow, who am I? So I'm like, trying to figure out my identity, which is what my blog has been about for the past, I think from 2018 up until now. It's been a journey for me, but it really was how I broke out of the imposter syndrome, I would say, how I started overcoming it, because I started to see myself through the lens of God. If he loves me and he desires the best for me, and he said in the Bible that all things will work out for my good, that means no matter what I'm facing or whatever opposition is in front of me, I'll be just fine. And so if I'll be just fine, why do I worry? And so like I started trying to break those things down and focus on him, like focus on God loves me. Like I'm a child of God, and God loves me. And as simple as it sounds, it really changed my mindset. It wasn't something that happened overnight. Nothing happens overnight, but just in the year that I've been focusing on talking to, reading my Bible, trying to understand more what the Word of God says about us. There's so much in the Bible, and sometimes we overlook it and we just think it's just this book. It is like, it's an encyclopedia of facts. And there's so much love in there, so much goodness and judgment and punishment for people. But there are rules to how some people expect, how we're supposed to live as people. But it's all in love, right? It's the same in the world. We have restrictions, we have rules to abide by in society. So, but anyway, I'm trying. It's basically me understanding the love of God and seeing myself as God sees me is the way that my heart and my mind started to become changed or transformed, I would say. I started having a greater sense of confidence in myself, that I don't worry about other people's opinions about me. I don't worry about pleasing other people. I worry about doing the best work that I can to make sure I meet everyone's needs. But my focus is not to make one person love me more because I have to like meet their very need and then basically compromise myself or my integrity. Nothing like that. It's like I have to be be the best version of me according to what God says I should do. So that's how I live my life now more. I'm focused on that, doing the best I can and being the best child, daughter. And it's not perfect, right? Sometimes I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to deal with this. Or, life is just, I'm like in the middle of a lot of things. But we have, also God gave us grace through Jesus. So when we're meeting quote unquote, our expectations for ourselves. We give ourselves grace. It's okay. We're not called to be perfect people. Sometimes life just isn't happening the way we want it to happen. And there's going to be bad days, good days, losses, failures, or wins. But even in all of those things, all of it together shows the love of God for us. And he still loves us even in the midst of life not going the way we want it to go. Having God in our life doesn't mean life is going to be perfect for us. It means that we'll persevere, we'll be strong, we'll learn patience, we'll have compassion for others, we'll love others when they can't love themselves, we'll love others when we don't want to love them. And so it's just, those are the things that really helped me come to terms with, okay, there's this called imposter syndrome. I'm going to overcome it. And I can because of God. So I focus on that. And I'm able to do this with you because of that. The old me would have just said, no, I'm not coming on this thing. I don't want to deal with this. They're going to probably think I'm weird. But I was like, you know what? I think this is an opportunity for me to, I listened to the other talk you had on anxiety, another guest you had, and that was beautiful. And I'm like, it's an opportunity for me to share my experiences. And some people might like it, and some people might hate it, and that's okay. So.
I think the thing is I want to just recap one thing you said in your talk, so beautiful. You said the moment you turned your gaze on yourself and tried to look at yourself like God does, like with love and compassion.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, because this is something that's really been in my mind during this whole coronavirus time, is that I found, as being somebody who has a scientific mind, but also like a deep sense of faith and spirituality. I found there was kind of a lot of people saying all we need to do is be scientific, and all we need to do is pray.
Yeah, no.
I'm sitting there and I'm going, no, man, we need everything.
It's combinations.
The funny thing is, a lot of the people who I know who are like my greatest spiritual teachers are people who started in science. They started off as medical doctors because they had that genuine desire to help people. But then they realized the path was actually different. But they've got that grounding. So they kind of like go, oh yeah, don't take antibiotics, or don't say that. They kind of go, yeah, take everything. Like,
right, yeah.
It's all coming from the good. It's all the good stuff. Is all.
We need it all, yeah.
The doctors are all on the good side. And it's embracing. I'm like, we need everything right now.
Yeah, we do. And I always say God created all of us, right? He gave everyone their gifts, their talents, their interests, right? And that means that every part is important. It all makes the whole complete. So we can't say, oh, I'm just going to toss this out, toss that out. Yeah, there's a lot of conspiracy theory out there, but it still comes back down to every part is important. Every part makes the whole complete. And so doctors are very essential right now. Scientists that are focusing on the COVID vaccine and everything, they're very important right now, right? Essential workers, everyone plays their part. We're all part of one body. I feel like, honestly, if we really understood that better, we would do better as a society, we would do better as a nation, as a world, as countries combined. Because we would just love each other, because every part, no matter how small, the little thumb is as important as the little fingers is as important as the thumb, the big toe is as important as the elbow. Like every part makes the whole complete. But sometimes I think we're so clouded with our own human nature that we overlook things, we overlook people, we consider some people less than, less essential, less important. And even this time showed us how essential the formerly unessential people really are. But we've elevated so many things incorrectly for so long. Hopefully this is something that changes a lot of us for the better. But we're human beings, so we're fickle-minded.
I love how you say that, and it kind of, again, the one thing I wanted to talk to you about and ask you is because as I say, I always look at imposter syndrome from at least three sides, and how it holds us back.
Right.
And I think when I talk about imposter syndrome as like an origin, you know, that often stems to kind of like societal imposter syndrome. So like stepping into an arena that, you know, whether it's a man stepping into a you know, traditionally female role or whatever, that there's a kind of you know, the perception of what's gone before.
Yeah.
Where I talk about imposter syndrome as a solution, it's about coming at things from a new perspective, and also kind of, some of us kind of need the push of almost like, it's almost like if somebody says you can't do this, it makes us want to do it more, or it makes us look at, like you say, the thing about reappraising everything.
Yeah.
It was something you just said there about, you know, people and things that we didn't consider that important, and then suddenly we realize like our perspective is really skewed. You know, and it's, for me, it's, but you know what, having family go into hospitals and things like that, I've always been very aware of cleaners.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, always, but then when it comes to the coronavirus and COVID, you're like, oh, I'm just even more
Amplified, right?
and like, you know, when you're clapping the key workers, it's all the cleaners and people that people often don't treat very well, don't even say hello to, and
Yeah.
you know, and it's kind of disgusting.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I'm really glad that there's a change there. You know? And I think that sometimes that imposter syndrome, it kind of it helps us have a different perspective, and it's kind of, and sometimes we need it in a way to sort of almost, it's that thing you said about everybody being important. Sometimes we have to feel unimportant.
Yeah, to see others. Yeah.
To kind of go off and spend a year working on something that might not actually come to anything.
Right.
You know, but it's kind of like that can sometimes mean that we create something really, really amazing.
Yeah. No, I get that. It does make sense. It's kind of that's why I sometimes feel like some of these, you know, things that we go through, we don't always have to see them as so bad. I'm reading a book right now by Henry Cloud, Dr. Henry Cloud, on like necessary endings, and in it, it's, you know, it's describing how some endings are an essential part of life, like ending things, right? But for whatever reason, we don't. Sometimes we think it's a bad thing. It's the same with, like, you know, this, you know, possibly it's kind of like, just because you have anxiety, don't, sometimes there's you know, you have to think about what was underneath it, like what caused it, like what you said, right? The what was behind it, because sometimes just taking a step back and reassessing these things helps us have a better appreciation for our lives and others' lives, how important it is, but also it helps us grow, right? We grow from it, we learn, we have a better understanding of how to help others also, because we can help ourselves. So going through things doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. It's a challenge to overcome, but we learn so much when we delve into it and seek, you know, we need to seek counsel, seek wisdom, seek people that can actually help. So don't try to, that's something like, don't be a superhero, because that's also something that happens in imposter syndrome, is like when you become Superman, Superwoman, and you want to do everything by yourself on your own power all the time, and you know, you don't seek any guidance, any help from anyone. Problem. So
yeah, a lot of people, I find, especially in England, and I think you guys have had, oh man, you've had a rough time, you know, this year. There's a lot of people who had to reach out for help who aren't normally comfortable in reaching out for help, you know. And at the same time, there's a lot of people who've had to step in and provide help, or realize, you know, like people who've been in England, like furloughed from jobs, regardless of what their job was, whether they were executive or whatever they were, that they realised the importance of just going to the pharmacy, somebody's medicine for them and dropping it off so that they don't have to do it. And yeah, I think it's that thing of being able to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes.
right.
And like, I think sometimes, I know, just thinking, quickly about some of the very negative experiences that I've had. I'm actually grateful for them because they help me to understand what other people have been through. So I can have a conversation with them and I can say, yes, I actually understand why you did that, and I understand why that was so difficult for you. I had, a similar negative experience, and I, it's not logical sometimes the way that we react in certain situations.
Right, but it's
But then
it's not about logic all the time.
Yeah, but then you go through it and you go, oh, it is logical. Yeah, there's a kind of like an animal logic or a
connection.
or like something. What's the word? Like self-preservation. Sometimes you do things, even though they're kind of like counterintuitive. And then afterwards you go, yeah, I understand why I did that, because that was a sort of, it was kind of like as an animal, I felt, that. And you go, oh, I understand why people do that now. Okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and that's such a good thing, powerful thing you said. Is just these experiences sometimes gives us perspective, so we can see, how it is to be someone else. We are so comfortable in our own shoes that stepping out of it is uncomfortable, and no one actually would go purposefully take off their shoes, right? And some people do actually. Some people just have that heart, but many people don't take off their own shoes to step into someone else's shoes. We may feel that we understand how people feel, but when someone says, like, you want to put on my shoes, you're like, no, thank you, you can keep that. So it's really being able to have that kind of heart, and it's something I think it really takes daily practice and being intentional. Because even there's so many ways that I could potentially still be more compassionate, be more loving, be more kind, be more thoughtful. We all have ways that we could keep getting better. I think this is like a lifelong journey, right? No one wakes up perfect. So
I love what you just said about shoes, though, and you reminded me of I had a whole thing about shoes when I was No, I did, because when I was traveling and I would have like one pair of shoes, I got my boots and I got my flip-flops, and that was it. And you kind of think, oh, I'm so roughy tufty, I'm so like cool, I've got my. And then when I went to Southeast Asia, and I met a man who was driving his guide, and he was driving barefoot.
Wow.
And I said to him, well, like, how can you drive barefoot? Why are you driving barefoot? And he said, oh, it's a funny story. He said, oh, this morning I got up late, and so my dad had already gone out with a pair of shoes.
Oh.
So he like had half a pair of shoes. He shared his dad.
Wow.
I know.
That is so crazy.
And then you go, right, don't react. Finish out the day, and then get back to your hotel room. Like, then you can cry it out. Then you can, because it's like,
Right.
I always remember we were sitting there, and we really got to talking about like our diseases of the mind, like overconsumption. You know what I mean? And he was just like, oh yes, I've seen this. Because you eat too many hot dogs.
That's it.
He said, I've seen it on. He's like, no, I've seen it on TV. You guys all eat too many hot dogs. And you're like, but actually, what was really beautiful is it actually reminded me of a story of someone I know who I was with, and he actually gave his pair of shoes to somebody who needed them, and walked home barefoot.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. At home, and it's such a funny time that we're going through,
right?
Shifting and giving things and sharing. And I always think, like, when I went to Southeast Asia, it's like I learned so much about sharing. Yeah, because I think in poorer cultures and communities, sharing. And I think that's kind of something that's great to see people with the pressures of this virus, when people have actually stepped into sharing more and being more generous with each other. And I think that's a really we've seen,
it really is.
people's hearts during this.
You know, that's just like, that's something that's been ongoing at my church now. It's kind of like there's been a greater move already. Where I come from a very generous church, but there's been such a great move of generosity. It's amazing to witness, to see how people are pouring into other people. We did donation, got funds for donations to give food to families that didn't have food. Because when Corona hit, I think a lot of people, both in our church and outside our church, I think it really showed a lot of people, how just gluttonous we've been with our lives and how we've wasted our resources over time. It's something that kind of like an awakening, right? Like, in being, careful how we spend, how we invest, how we, like just being more conscious of what we do. And to now have people having a lot of need, at the start of it or even right in the middle of it, that was just crazy to watch. But a lot of people stepped up, churches stepped up, and it was just beautiful to see that move and that generosity pour out in so many ways. Love, prayer, all of it is good. Like we said, it's a combination of all of it where, we want the doctors and everybody to figure out stuff, but us as people, we're sharing in other ways where, loving on people more. Now everyone's working around with masks, so you can't even see someone smile. You can't, like the things we took for granted. Now we're like, maybe they're smiling. Smile with your eyes.
You know what? You know what? I have to say, England is probably the worst for wearing masks.
Really?
Oh, bad. And we've literally this Monday, just gone, this Monday, we have our great, I don't want to get too critical here, but like as of Monday, we're supposed to wear face masks and if you can, So in London, they've made it like mandatory in London for people to wear face masks on public transport. I haven't checked out the public transport down here because I'm in a more rural area, but people are not wearing them in cities. People are not wearing. And I said to the lady in the supermarket, I said, "Are we supposed to be wearing masks now?" She went, "Well, we've got some if you want one, but they're in the back." I was like,
"You're free to try if you feel like." Here, it's so serious. Like, you can't go into a store without a face mask. They have like hand sanitizers at the door. You have to like squirt.
It is not like that. The thing is, I work with some lovely ladies in London, and we were talking on Monday, and they said, no, you've got to. And I said, they're not going to do it down here. I said, they're not going to do it down here.
Wow, I'm surprised. I thought you guys are like more like into rules.
It's like everyone's kind of like, it's too little too late, and unfortunately we have a really, really poor adherence to guidelines down here, because it's just, unfortunately, we've had a lot of, mixed messages. I just wanted to say something. I don't know if you saw this, what I think is great about when you're really generous, and it's a bit naughty of me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't know if you saw, we had a great story in England the last couple of days. Because one of the issues in the UK is we actually have a real problem with the poverty and food poverty for children.
I didn't realize that.
Oh, it's pretty bad. And when the schools closed, a lot of children were then not getting their school meals. A lot of children would get, and I grew up on free school meals,
Right.
So a lot of children were not getting those, and a lot of people stepped up. And it's beautiful because we've had teachers who've been walking miles to deliver meals. But what's actually happened is, and there's a voucher system and stuff, but then the government were going to cancel it for the summer holidays, the school holidays. So for 6 weeks, they weren't going to get any food support. These families weren't going to get any food support. And Marcus, I think it's Marcus Ashford or Marcus Rashford, I get his name wrong, who is a black footballer, and they just playing this week. He's just moved mountains. He started a campaign and he has actually been working to provide food to children, raise money,
That's awesome.
but he called the government out on it and said,
Yeah, that's shameful. That's terrible.
yeah, and the government slapped him down. Various MPs said some mean things on social media, and then they did a U-turn and they said, right, we've got to give food to all the kids through the school holiday. So he's like, you've got to check him out. He is like a big hero. Because also that's the thing, what's really great is, I know it's not why we give stuff to people, it's not why we're generous, but it does really embarrass the government and the council sometimes. And that's quite helpful because, you know, really, unfortunately, a lot of people in authority only do stuff when they're embarrassed and they're called on it.
I mean, that's a sad thing that those in authority aren't looking out for everyone's best interest. I mean, they should know better, right? They should know that the kids are not going to have food because their parents are not able to work at the same capacity and the kids are all home. And so there needs to be an adjustment made so that everyone's needs are met, right? That's in power. It's like power to take care for the people. The people are your constituents.
It's I think the thing is that it's so obvious if you walk those miles, you know, if you've been at school and you've had that issue, then it's so obvious. It's so obvious. And yeah, it's really great that I think that there's hopefully a bit more movement there, and hopefully a bit more movement to kind of help families out.
Right.
And hopefully in the US as well.
No, I mean, just in my circle, like through my church, I go to this great church in Jersey, and we've done a lot. And I know other churches have been doing things. The food banks have been, you know, getting donations. They've been having trucks, like they had trucks, like meet at a location, and now it's on social media, and all of the boxes of food are gone within hours. So there's been a lot of need, but they've been getting met. And it's good that the government gave, you know, some funds to families as well, but you know, they only last so long if you don't already have savings or something coming in as well. So yeah, but you know, really hope that this new shift is something that's here to stay, right? Where people really see the needs of others. Even if you've never experienced it, it's just good to like try to imagine how it would be if that was you, that was your child, that was your family member. How would you feel? How would you, what can you do to help? And sometimes maybe you can't help, and maybe there's other ways you can be of help. You find out. It all takes being intentional, right? We just how we can help others. Be intentional to find out how.
Well, I think the thing is, what I always kind of come back to is, you know, there's a beautiful expression, and I love it. And I think sometimes it feels challenging to understand it, which is you only get to keep what you give away. You know? And I think the thing is that sometimes we underestimate what our gifts mean to other people. You know, and I'm just so impressed, and I think it's so amazing the way that you're using your gifts. You know, the way that you're sharing them with people through your work.
Thank you.
You know, I think the thing is that it's such a powerful thing that you're doing, because you're sharing that gift, which might make some real, you know, you've got your work, which makes a difference, and then you've also got the way that you are inspiring so many people and empowering so many others as well, and that's a gift.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. You know, it still goes back to like still overcoming is that, you know, you see a little improvement in your growth and you're like, oh, it's just a little bit of that, right? I'm like, I just managed to do that. But it really is inspiring to me and more encouraging when I see other people's comments, and I'm like, oh, wow, you know, people do have these experiences too. It's not, and then it reminds me, yes, you're not the only one, right? You're not alone, right? There's so many other people out there going through things. There's so many other people that are still trying to figure out how to overcome certain things. So whatever you have, whatever you learn, just like what you said, is like, why not put it out there, figure out how to help people see how they too can break free and they too can have, the kind of life that they're trying to aim towards, right? So, and again, I always say, like, it's not about perfection. It's kind of like every day we make little steps until we finally figure out, maybe we'll figure it out when we're older, but when we're like 90 and like old and gray.
The great thing is, if you think about, I kind of see it very clearly in my head, like, that you are really, where you are with your work, you are kind of standing on top of a mountain. You really are. As you say, you've done it in little steps, but you've done it. And you're still doing it. You're still keep going.
Right. It's a lot.
Everybody who's out here and who's on that kind of that ground floor, who's looking up, and they go, "Oh, you did it. Oh, you did it." And it's just that, people are looking at you and they can say, "Hey, maybe I can climb that mountain. And maybe I could do that, or do I want to?" You're giving people choices. You're giving people choices that they might not realize that they had.
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, so good.
That's so powerful.
Thank God.
No.
Yeah, this is fun.
It's so great to talk to you. And I'm going to put all the links. I'm going to put all the links down here so you can kind of follow up and see because you've written so many beautiful things. You really have.
Thank you.
It's so inspiring. But it's kind of nice when you get to hear somebody talk, because then you hear their voice. And when people go and read it, they can hear your voice. They can.
That's good. Oh, so funny. I'm gonna have to listen to myself speak.
Yeah, it's a really weird thing. Like, because I'm doing all this stuff about speaking, and everyone kind of goes, "Oh, everyone hates the sound of their voice," and I'm like, "No, I love the sound of my voice." No, because I sound like my sisters.
That's the same with me. I have two sisters, and my daughter gets mixed up too. Like, sometimes she's like, "Mommy." my younger sister's voice is more like mine, probably at sometimes. Like, it's ridiculous. And
but I like it because I'm missing them. Do you know what I mean? I'm missing hanging out with my sisters at the moment. So when I hear my voice, it makes me feel like I'm hanging out with my sisters.
It's so sweet.
I know. It's like when you have a mirror, and it's just kind of like, it makes you feel less alone if you
they're part of it.
I'm doing lockdown on my own, so it's kind of it's
that's hard. Yeah, that's hard. Yeah, that's hard. I can't imagine. But anyone like you can like social distance hang out with.
We've been lucky in a way, because we kind of have a very strange lockdown in England, that we've always been able to go out for walks.
Okay, that's nice.
And I have a window on the street as well, so it's kind of, I've always been able to like see people, and so I haven't felt like
you're locked up. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I have not been in lockdown either. Like, I've seen some friends, whoever's comfortable reading, just being wise about how much out there I go. But I go into the grocery store, I'm going for a run. So I understand what you mean, kind of having that luxury it's a luxury, honestly, because I know in some countries right now the lockdown is like violent. It's quite scary, honestly. And there's so much this world needs. So sometimes it's overwhelming, honestly. And I was having a conversation with one of my sisters recently, this week actually, and she was so emotional about it. It's just kind of like, how can people die in lockdown, not from the disease, but from the enforcement of lockdown? That doesn't make any sense. But this is the world we live in. It's just, there's a lot of nonsense out there right now. Just things just need to be better, but it just takes one step, right? One step at a time, one heart change, one mind change at a time, and we'll finally figure it out.
I think, we talk a lot about it, and I think if we talk about, there's kind of a lot going on in the world today, and I think a lot of people are very kind of resistant, and they want to sort of, you know, they want to stay in the old world.
Comfortable. Change is uncomfortable. Yeah.
It is. But I also think that, you know, we are all going to be different. We are all going to be different by the time we come out of this. And so you know, like you say, you've got to kind of, you know, you use the negative experience in as positive a way as you possibly can.
Right.
And where there are mistakes and there are problems, is to try and look at it and say, well, you know, what can I learn from that?
Right.
Where is that my mistake? Where am I? So I think we're all at school right now.
All of us. Yes.
Everything new, and I think, you know, I keep talking about having a beginner's mind.
It's important, honestly. Yeah.
You know, at the beginning of this, everyone was like, "Oh no, this won't happen. That won't happen. This will be this." And it's like, forget everything that.
Completely. Yeah. Even I was shocked. I was like, "Oh, there's not. It's gonna be like the flu. Like it'll pass. Like people just get, you know, maybe mild cold, and then they really did lock us down." I was shocked. I was like, "Wow, this is serious." Like, I didn't think it was gonna go this bad. Like, you know, so. Yeah, a lot that beginner's mind is also keeps us humble, honestly, because it always reminds us that we don't really know everything, and okay not to know everything. Like,
I think it's kind of an expression that's come up to me recently, just the last couple of days, again, with a lot of stuff in the news about people are responding to you know, like Black Lives Matter and things like that, and some of the comments from our MPs in this country, and it's just my expression is ivory tower. You know, some people are still living in an ivory tower of having no connection, no grounding, no real kind of humility.
Yeah, I mean the things like Martin Luther King. There's a quote that that just recently came to my purview, based on this Dr. Goodlow, and he was preaching, talking to us, and he at our church, and he said, what Martin Luther King said, which basically we fear each other because we don't know each other, right? A lot of us live in that fear zone. It holds people really back, right? You just have all preconceived notions, not from anything you really experience, but things someone else told you, maybe your family members, you know, a lot of people have told you things and you just believe it. That's fact. You've probably never really experienced life with another colored person or someone else that it doesn't live in your circle, right? And so you just have all these expectations. So it's the fear. And part of the quote, it says like we fear each other because we don't know each other, but we don't know each other because we're not spending time together too. We're not being intentional to get to know people. Like, okay, I don't know, maybe some Black people are the same way, but it's the same, it goes both ways, right? Some white people are violent and there's a lot of homicide. It goes both ways. Every community has a thing that they have to battle through, right? That is the truth of life. Every community has a challenge that they're working through. That doesn't make them bad or good, right? It makes them people. It just makes them people. We all have our weaknesses and we have our strengths. And so if as a people in general, we would just overlook everyone else's problems and focus on how we can help each other, we would realize that in many ways, some of the things people are going through is also from their past experiences, right? The struggles that people are going through is part of the history of years of, you know, especially for the Black community here in the US, it's kind of like, even around the world, like a lot of years of slavery and abuse. And if you don't, you do better when you know better, right? And some people have been in that environment for so long of poverty. Poverty of the mind is powerful, right? It really holds us back. And so ignorance goes both ways. It's not just in the white community, it's also in the Black community. So there's a lot of struggle for people to just kind of understand that everyone's struggling in both cases. We understand that we give each other love and grace, and we would have a better appreciation of how we can do better. Just understand other people have pain, and and they have to overcome their own struggles and limitations, and don't, hold yourself at this standard, like, oh, because you have to remember also the history. Some people have this family wealth, I would say, right? A lot of people have familial wealth, and a lot of people on the other side have this poverty that they have to fight out of for years. In my family, it's kind of like that almost. It's kind of like there've been a lot of struggles in the past in the family, and when a person becomes successful, you're not alone. Now you have to make sure you bring everyone else along. We're not just looking at our immediate family. It's a familial thing. Once you find freedom, what do? You go back and pull everyone else out of it, because your life is not your own. That's how we're brought up. Like, your life is not your own. There are people behind you. And then you look, I have a child, so now there are people ahead of me. I want to make sure that I'm setting up a foundation where they don't have to go through the same struggles I went through in the past. And so it's kind of like remembering that everyone has, especially in these communities, like, people, it's a lot of things that they're carrying, right? It's a lot of weight that people carry, and you don't see it when you just look at one person. You don't see it. And it's hard to figure out how you quantify it and how do you help them, right? But just having a little love is enough to make a difference, honestly. Just understanding there's a lot of weight people carry, and just have a little love. But it's hard, I understand, communities and societal things, and like you said, the ivory tower, the untouchables and all of that stuff. But it's just, I don't know, no judgment. It's just kind of like, hopefully, it just takes, someone, just a little love, little seed, put it in there, and then maybe they'll figure it out.
The thing I'm thinking about is what you remind me of is whenever I've traveled, especially if I've traveled somewhere really kind of, I want to use the right word, where there's a big gap, like say Sri Lanka or something like that. And what I always find is, and I actually find this a lot as well, people go to a country and want to experience it. And then they get there and they're like scared to go back to the hotel.
It's true, yeah. It's fair.
Even in Portugal. And what always surprises me is the people who find it so difficult, because they're not the people you expect. They're people who maybe have travelled. And the thing is, I find it really weird, because sometimes it happens to me when I go somewhere. And one of the places I found the worst and the hardest was when I went to Las Vegas.
Oh, really? I'm surprised.
No, but the hotel was like so big, and the thought of because it was so big, I found it really scary to kind of walk outside the hotel.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And also because everybody had warned me about going out of the hotel. It's like, oh yeah, the Vegas is this. It was kind of weird. I think the thing is, it was the choice of hotel as much as anything. And when I've been to Mexico quite a bit, and I've always stayed in quite sort of small local places. And I always met people who work in the big hotels, and they say, when Americans come out of the big hotels, it's like they're like that, and they say it's a bit like they've come out of prison, because they're like, oh, wow, this is Mexico, because inside the hotel it
feels the same. Yeah, it's safe. Yeah.
And I was in Mexico, and I was reading it's like some magazine or newspaper that was for like US tourists, and it was like tips on things to do. And then
they always have those. Yeah.
It was like 5 things not to do in Mexico, and it was like talk to strangers, eat street food.
What?
I've done all of that.
But that's part of the experience. Like,
exactly.
You gotta get into it.
It's a fun.
I mean, with wisdom, right?
Yeah, but I always remember that time in Vegas, and that was I found that so hard. And I was like, that's so weird, because that's not normally normally I arrive somewhere and I'm straight out, let me go find somewhere to wander off to, let me go. And in Vegas, I just found this kind of really, it was like, whoa, don't leave the hotel, it's safe inside the hotel.
Yeah, and this might actually be a good analogy for how a lot of people feel, right? It's kind of like, you know, you're in your life, you feel a certain safety net, and you don't understand anything outside of that space. So it's hard for you to see anything beyond where you are, and to really break out, you have to kind of step outside, right? Basically, like what we've talked about is like step into someone else's shoes, step out of your comfort zone.
And
But
sometimes you really, sometimes, I mean, some countries I've been to, you absolutely do need a guide.
mm,
You need somebody who
there we
understands
go. Yes, wisdom. You can get lost or
where you're
kidnapped.
not just that,
Yes.
not just that, but like culturally, who says no, 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 we don't do that here, or you know, like who says no, you have to cover up this, and you have to like, if we're going to go in here, you have to take your shoes off, or you have, you know, so you kind of need that person in the middle who kind of
As experienced. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
I understand. I understand your culture, and I
Mm-hmm.
understand this culture.
I'm gonna help you.
Yeah, help
Yeah.
you translate and not cause
And
it.
that's so good. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's.
I mean, I think that's a kind of nice way of looking at it. In that,
Mm-hmm.
but I think maybe we're in that stage. You know, you said at the very beginning about imposter syndrome that we find it so hard to ask for help,
Right.
and maybe that's what we need to do is just say, look, help me understand.
Right. Yeah. Find someone that can help you. Yeah.
Can you explain this to me? Can you show me the way?
Right.
Instead of just kind of being, I don't want to know, I don't want to know,
Right. Right.
I don't want to change, I don't want to change.
I know. I'd rather stay like that. No, that's so good. That's so powerful. You just said that. Yeah. I think one of the words that our pastor at our church, his name is Anthony Fleming. He preached one time about us, you know, not just getting stuck, you know, to be comfortable, to learn, you know, kind of step out of that comfort of not knowing. And we put on blinders and I don't want to see it, I don't see it, or I don't understand it. So that just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not there, right? But just because your blinders are on doesn't mean it's not there still. And so we just have to kind of step out and be comfortable to kind of learn. You know, Netflix has a lot of videos about the history of being a Black person, or, you know, other underserved you know, groups, or you know, minority groups, and just how life is different for every, you know, depending on where they're from. And so it's just kind of like, just get informed, read books. There's so many books out there that can help you get a better perspective too. And like you said, like just finding something to bridge the knowledge gap for you from wherever you are. No one's expecting you to all of a sudden like, oh, now I'm championing this. It's okay if you don't feel inclined to do so. But just at least that you just have a little bit more compassion for struggles that other people are going through, and for the things that they're overcoming and they're trying to work through. And if it's not in your heart to be of assistance, that's okay. But maybe you could step away from speaking ill of it, or leaving comments on Facebook and leaving comments on Instagram that really have no wisdom behind them.
I have to say that has been a huge and huge wake up call to me. When I've been reading posts and I've been reading articles and talking to people who are just even writing a great article like you did, and then seeing the kind of commentary, and I think I've been truly shocked by the negativity.
Yeah.
And I think for me that's been a huge wake-up call, understanding a little bit better what so many people have to put up with, I guess I get angry about it because I did not realize how bad it was. I thought I had an understanding, and I realized that my understanding is way off the mark. It was, like I say, you kind of maybe see the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I'm glad. That's so awesome. Yeah, it's.
My hat is off to people. My hat is off to you, particularly personally, because it takes a lot of guts to write. I mean, it takes me a lot to write, And
Right.
I don't actually face that much negativity. I'm always kind of like, oh, people will say negative things, but they don't. But,
Right.
but I see how much negativity is aimed, um, you know, you and anybody who's speaking out about this subject right now. So
I mean, the things that's why it goes right back to like, who are you? Like, how do you see yourself, right? So that the opinions and the thoughts of other people have no negative impact. It might sting because no one wants to hear something bad about themselves, but it shouldn't change your confidence in speaking up still, or change your confidence in the truth of what you're saying, right? The fact of the matter still stands. That is your experience. You sharing it because you hope it helps someone else, and you sharing it is also helpful for you in the healing process as you're going through it. So it's okay. Like, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, as they say out there, right? But just stay on your lane, eyes focused. That's why always say eye on the prize. And for me, my prize is basically focusing on Jesus. I don't mince my words about saying that, and it's the most important thing to me, because that really helps me in all other areas of my life to do the best as I can, be the best mom, try to be the best wife, be the best worker when I'm at work, invest the best into my relationships, my friendships, invest the best I can into a stranger I meet, right? Not every stranger is meant to be in my circle, so I don't fight I have a lot of mantras I make up for myself. I live by them. Like, I don't fight battles that are not mine. So like, if I'm in a situation and it just doesn't make sense, there's nothing I'm gonna get out of it, I step away. Like, I don't involve myself. I don't have to fight that battle, because I'm not gonna. First of all, I'm not gonna. You can't change anybody, right? People change themselves. So that's another thing. Like, it's great to go on Instagram and social media and try to, argue with people, but honestly, it's a waste of your energy. We cannot change anyone's mind by just speaking at them, right? They have to be intentional about going to learn the facts of truth, because the thing is, people are stuck in their mindsets, honestly. So the only thing you can do is share information, right? And then allow them to either decide to synthesize it and figure out how it applies and how they can add it to their lives and change the way they already see things, or they don't, and they keep spouting the same, whatever it is, the content of their heart, that is not good, and helpful to help anybody, right? So,
yeah, I would think one of the best things, and the expression that always comes up, and this comes from like the spiritual path, is if you let people tell you who they are, they will tell you. So I think actually what I'm finding, and I find this particularly on LinkedIn at the moment, where various people are saying various things, I think, well, actually it's helpful because people are telling you who they are. And
now you know.
Like with our MPs and the things that they've been saying, and you're like, oh, I can't believe you said that, but it's like people see who they are.
Right.
And
it's exposed.
So that's, in a sense, that's useful. Like, if we listen to what people are saying, then it's kind of like, wow, yeah, okay. I see who you are now.
Right. Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, it's exposing. I mean, it's also painful too, though, because finding out how someone is, but then kind of like, oh, now how do you move forward? Especially if you already had like a certain, so you have to set up boundaries if you're friends, or do you set up new rules, or like, do you cut them off? And people have to navigate their relationships. That's why I'm not on Facebook, because where I actually I think this is like when Black Lives Movement had kind of gotten kind of deep. This was like maybe 3-4 years ago, around the time that some police murders and all that. I was like, I can't be on Facebook because I don't want to know. Like, I really don't want to know. This is too much. Like, to see people's true personalities and to see the content of their hearts. And like, I don't want to know. I'm just gonna rather keep you in a bubble. First of all, I'm already putting you in the the zone of the friends that I kind of have as friends, maybe. But otherwise, like, I kind of don't want to know because it's just too much. And then people that you may have held at high esteem, they're really quite, so.
It's hard. And I must admit, I do a little bit of, it's a bit like when I go out for a walk and I'm checking the virus situation and the crowd situation. I kind of come out and I go, what's it like? Oh no, go away. Don't face me yet. Oh no, let me go away. But I suppose for me, it's like, I always call it, I'm like scouting. I'm like checking it out, and then, okay, this is too much today. It's kind of like having a little awareness, but it's very interesting because I've written a lot about this, and as you say, it's about really comes down to like unconditional love. That you can love somebody unconditionally and you can forgive them, and also say, I never want to speak to you again.
Yeah, no, it's true. That's fine.
Yeah. And I think it's something that people find hard to understand. And I think it's a beautiful thing of forgiveness, and it's a great thing. Some people use that concept of forgiveness in terms of, and it's very much being used at the moment. Oh, you should do this, it was this 20 years ago, and all that. And it's like, that's not forgiveness.
Yeah.
We're talking about understanding the true meaning of forgiveness. Like, you can forgive somebody, but you
still expect them to make changes. Yeah.
You can still take legal action against them.
Yes, and it's okay. Yeah.
But I think the thing is people have to understand that there's a difference between forgiveness and allowing abuse. And you can still seek, like, I want to use an example that's not too like offensive.
Yeah.
I've got some really dark examples in my head and all these different things going on in my head. But if you have somebody in a community who behaves a certain way that's a danger to other people, forgiveness doesn't mean not reporting them.
Yeah.
This doesn't mean not taking criminal
action.
And so this person needs to be put away for the safety of other people and
everyone else
possibly as well. So it's not about that. It's not about being all airy-fairy and just saying let everything. It's actually about strong boundaries and really, this is a
yeah.
So that people, as you say, people know what's okay, but also so that if, and it's so sad, somebody and they've gone on to hurt another person, because the system supports them.
Yeah.
Because they're protected by a system.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. It's like you said, it's not, I mean, we could be honest about it. It's kind of like with the whole police brutality thing. I support the police. I want I know there's importance. Like, law and order is so essential. And we need that. But there needs to be changes in the system to ensure that people feel safe, right? Citizens feel safe and the police don't use their powers against people or even within the staff themselves. Like, people can stand up and say, you're doing that wrong. Don't do that. That is not okay, right? People feel comfortable that they can step up and say that in the police system themselves. So there's so many things that we could do better. But, I guess talking about it, protesting it is like the starting step. So hopefully we start to see more changes.
Well, I think the thing is, it's kind of like coming back to that thing, we were talking about, school meals and taking care of people in our society, whether it's in the US or in the UK. And like, where there is funding, we try and get the funding the most. Because we are seeing a lot of funding for businesses.
For the wrong things.
At a very high level, you know what I mean? It's a lot of money at a very high level.
Yeah, it's economy, right? So it goes back down to the government keeping the economy running in a certain way, and
But in terms of the police as well, we can look at it and we can say, whether in the UK or the US, to get about it for a minute, that there are other areas of policing which we can relax, and we know that there is a lot more need for people who are committing various types of crimes, and there is no support, there's very little action in certain areas, certain cases reported. So it's not about saying nobody, Lord, as you say, nobody can. It's about having the support for people who need, like I say, to protect and serve. You know,
Right.
it's in the UK. What can we say in the UK? Like that frog, please. You know, yours is great, isn't it? To protect and serve.
Yeah.
You know, that should be what it is.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's unfortunate all this kind of like almost over area
Of some people, yeah.
In you know, where people actually need the service. They need that service.
Yeah.
You know, like anyway, go on. Go.
There's a lie, no.
You know, it's been really nice to chat to you. I know, and I've really kept you waiting as well. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
It's been a real honor.
Thank you.
And I'll add lots of links so people can follow up with you as well. And I hope all goes well with you. And let's hope we'll meet in person, maybe.
That would be nice. You know, my sister is actually at LSE. She's studying policy there, so.
How's she doing?
I'll be around soon. She's good. She's been in quarantine, trying to, exam and stuff. And she's going to be starting an internship for the summer. So.
Oh, well, I hope all goes well for her. Okay.
Yeah, it will.
Virtual hug now.
Yes.
Another virtual hug. I've had to get really good at the virtual hugs because I'm not a real hug.
Yes.
I'm going to break any minute. I say I'm going to break any minute and you'll find me in the street just hugging everyone. It's going to happen.
I have had some hugs, so it's good.
You look my face when I see somebody hugging somebody else, like, I don't get that, you know. I will just end up going to the middle of this town square and just think, I'm going to hug everyone now. I don't care.
Yeah.
No, I'm being good.
Yes.
What's the word? Be disciplined and keep and just keep going. Just keep going slow and steady.
Yes, we will. Step by step.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. I'm
Thank
going
you.
to say goodbye now. And
yes.
Thank you so